Y'all, I got some more good stuff for y'all today. But before we get into it, I do want to let you guys know that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance in hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing like a part 2 for the video that we did on Monday.
None of it makes sense because it's not the way it happened.
Well, if you remember the trial,
It's just a series of lies that overlap and misdirect.
About the Casey documentary and all of that jazz. And a lot of y'all had questions about like, well, what do you think about this? And how do you feel about this? So I'm going to not only answer those questions for y'all today, but I'm going to show you why I feel the way that I feel. I'm also going to tell y'all what Casey's father has since come out and said. I'm going to tell you guys some stuff about Mr. McKenna, the guy that Casey Anthony has been working for the past 10 years, but also living with. I'm going to tell you some little things about him. And then I'm also going to tell y'all what a jury member has said. And I'm not talking about these old school videos that you can find online. I'm talking about some good stuff that I felt like is pretty funny. Before we get into it, hi, my name is Christina. I have a second channel, which is Casually Christina. We do things more casually over there. I also have a Patreon. My Patreon is for 18 and up. Over there, we talk about more personal story times. We go live over there, and I have a $2 tier over there where all the true crime stuff that cannot go onto YouTube due to their terms and policies, that goes over on Patreon. And I also have an Instagram as well as a Snapchat and a Facebook, and those are always linked down in the description box if you'd like to come and check me out. Now, before I get into showing y'all all this and giving y'all my fully unprofessional opinion, and this is a good spot to let you guys know I am not a professional. I am nobody special. Y'all go do your own research, form your own opinions, because that's what I've done. I've done research, and I'm showing you guys what I found, and then I'm giving you guys my unprofessional opinions. Let's start off with Mr. McKenna. When I was watching the Peacock documentary, we all know that she's had 10 years to come up with this story that she's had, and it had to make enough sense. Now, in the beginning of this Peacock documentary, when she was trying to convince all of us that she is so honest now.
What is your relationship to truth and lying today? I'm a little too honest. I'm blunt. I'm direct.
Was watching her eyes, her facial expression. She'd lying out her ass.
She was saying that the way that she lied in the past was she would take little bits of the truth and build lies around it, which is exactly what I think she's still doing to this day. But not only did she have 10 years to come up with this new story, but she's literally living with part of her defense team. Okay, these are people that are in the legal system. McKenna has been an investigator for decades. Do you think for a second that she sat down to do this interview without running through scripts with her legal team and these people? She lived with this man. She's worked for him for 10 years. He told her what to say and what not to say, in my opinion. You got to be a fool to think that they did not go through this to piece this story together first. Now, what y'all may not know about McKenna, but not only was he the lead investigator on Casey Anthony's trial, but he was the lead investigator on O.J. Simpson's trial too. Now, y'all take that for the way y'all want to take it. But I'm going to tell you this right now as best as I can, because I don't want my grandma coming after me, honey, because my grandma watched every bit of that O.J. Simpson trial. I'm not going to tell you what she really thinks happens, but I'm going to tell you she was happy that he was found not guilty. And as a matter of fact, she taped the whole entire trial, and I have the tapes here. I haven't had them transferred into something that we can watch because nobody watches VHS anymore. But this is the whole entire O.J. Simpson trial I got from my grandma. But McKenna was the lead investigator on Casey Anthony's case and on O.J. Simpson's case. And I even found a clip where McKenna said that
I don't know who did it, but I know who didn't do it. O.J. Simpson did not murder two people. I've had people friends slam the table. You think everybody's innocent.
You think everybody's innocent. You think everybody's innocent.
Now, one of the questions that y'all were asking me was the situation with Casey Anthony's father. Did I believe that he had done these things to her that she is claiming? And what did I think about what they showed at the end of the documentary, where they showed a clip of her father giving like a little speech at Kaylee Anthony's funeral? I'm not gonna lie, when I watched it, it was creepy. I mean, they had built it up for us in this last episode that he was this type of person. They played the music behind it for dramatic effect, and they took certain clips to build their story. And after Casey built the story up, it just kind of fit in, and it made a lot of people think that maybe he did that. Now, do I think that he did that? I really don't know. I have family members and friends who believe wholeheartedly that she is totally lying and that her father never touched her or did any of that. Okay, they feel strongly about it. I personally, I have no idea. I know that as in certain families, secrets are taken to the grave sometimes. Some of y'all watching this right now have had things happen to you and you have never told anybody. You never know. I don't know about that. But even if that was the truth, it does not explain or excuse what Casey Anthony did. And the reason why I teeter more to her lying is because of the letter in jail and where this story started being built.
Few months, I've been really having vivid dreams, and it's obvious that they are dreams of things that have already happened. I think my dad used to do the same thing to me, but when I was much younger.
Before I had ever been arrested, I had memories of the abuse. But it wasn't until I was isolated from my family in jail that I started to remember more of the details.
She wrote a letter to one of her friends in there and said that she thinks she remembers her dad doing similar stuff to her, which in my mind, I took it as the girl that she was writing this letter to was telling Casey what had happened to her in her childhood. Then Casey said, I think I remember maybe something like that happened to me. And that is where this whole story came out while she was sitting in jail. She ended the whole entire docuseries of the fact that her dad did all this to Kaylee, and that the reason why she never came out and said her dad did it was because she was trusting her dad that her daughter was really alive and that he was taking care of everything and that she was going to get out, which none of that makes sense. I want y'all to listen to this phone conversation between Kaylee and her father while she was in jail. I will leave this full video link down below so y'all can go and watch it because, of course, the Peacock documentary only cuts out bits and pieces in order to paint a narrative for the viewers. But listen to how he speaks to his daughter. And in this, he's going to ask Casey if she took anything from anybody. What he's meaning by that, did she steal something from somebody else because Casey was known to be a thief? That's when Casey's going to go into explaining how, I took things from mom. And then her friend, if those of y'all that don't know, she dried her friend out, stole her checkbook, spent all of her money. I mean, not only is Casey a liar, a known convicted liar, but she's also been known to be a thief as well. So her father's trying to figure out if maybe she stole something from somebody and maybe they took Kaylee because he wants to help. Listen to this.
I know this might be a tough thing to answer.
No, go ahead.
But did you borrow something from anyone or remove it without their permission that Kaylee might be being held for?
No.
I know that's a tough question, sweetie, but I just need to ask you.
It's not a tough question, Dad. I mean, Mom knows the stuff that I had taken from her. We discussed that, on numerous occasions. And with Amy, I mean, I feel guilty about that. I feel extremely guilty. But I was under a time of desperation.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that with time of desperation?
And then he says, well, what do you mean by that, a time of desperation? Because remember, Casey's living at home with her parents. She ain't got no bills. She's lying about having a job for 2 years to her own family. They believe she's working at Universal Studios. So, of course, her dad's like, What do you mean by a time of desperation? And Casey does like she always does and diverts the conversation and reminds her family that these phone calls are recorded.
I feel guilty about that. I feel extremely guilty, but I was under a time of desperation.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that with time of desperation? I don't understand.
Like I said to you, well, I said to Mom, and Lee and I have spoken, and he advised me of something which is very smart. The written contact will be better than anything that's going to be recorded, since we can't speak openly, freely in person.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take time then going into anything else, and I want you to know, is there something that I can do for you, sweetie? I mean, I want you out of here.
I know, I want me out of here too, as quickly as possible, but at the same time, I know that until we get the bond lowered as much as possible, which is probably going to take a lot, the police aren't going to drop any charges. That's pretty evident.
Well, can I share something with you?
Yeah.
The longer and longer this drags on,
The harder it's going to be.
There's going to be maybe additional things that might hit everyone, and I don't want to get into that with you, but it's getting very, very crucial that we've got to get you out of here. If I could get you out of here right now, I would. But I want Kaylee back too.
That, again, Kaylee is my concern. If I have to stay in here, outside of that, if I can get out and then have to come back, I'll deal with whatever I have to myself that in regard to me.
Well,
I want to be out.
I want you to know, I want to take your pain away from you. So, you can tell me anything.
I know that, Dad.
I miss you, sweetie.
I know that. I miss you too.
I wish I could have been a better dad and better grandpa,
You've been a great dad, and you've been the best grandfather. Don't for a second think otherwise.
Well,
you and Mom have been the best grandparents. Kaylee's been so lucky. Kaylee is so lucky to have both of you. I can't even put into words how glad I am that she's had both of you. And that she still has both of you.
Did y'all catch that? That's when she tells her parents that she's glad that Kaylee had both of them. And then she corrects it, that she has both of them. She's good. I mean, she is good. But looking back at it, it definitely does not seem like she knows her father has her daughter and that she thinks she's alive somewhere and that her dad is coaching her. But the Peacock documentary took out bits and pieces and made it seem that way. You guys go and watch the full entire phone conversations for yourself and tell me what you think.
You can tell me anything.
I know that, Dad.
I miss you, sweetie.
I know that. I miss you too.
I wish I could have been a better dad and better grandpa,
You've been a great dad, and you've been the best grandfather. Don't for a second think otherwise.
Well, you
and Mom have been the best grandparents. Kaylee's been so lucky. Kaylee is so lucky to have both of you. I can't even put into words how glad I am that she's had both of you. And that she still has both of you.
It goes without saying, that our house is empty without both of you there. It's empty. All the little things that we took for granted, we miss them so much.
That's exactly how I feel.
All your little things and all her little things, it hurts. We're not there. Mom and I are just going through the motions,
So Casey come up with these stories or remembered these stories, whatever happened while she was in jail. I think that it could be possible that she was in jail all that time and she sat around in her cells and she listened to other people's stories and she formed her story from it, the same exact way Amber Heard did, allegedly. You guys remember Amber Heard telling this story about this abuse and her being, assaulted, and then her ex-assistant coming out and saying, wait a minute, that was my story. I told her that happened to me, and then she turned around and used it as her own story.
This is Kate James, Amber Heard's former personal assistant, and she has accused Amber Heard of stealing her sexual violence story. In the 2020 defamation trial between Johnny Depp and The Sun, Kate James was subpoenaed to give evidence. When she read what Amber Heard's submissions were for that trial, she said, "To my utter shock and dismay, I discovered that Ms. Heard had in fact stolen my sexual violence conversation with her and twisted it to her own story to benefit herself."
Do you guys remember when Amber Heard got on the stand and hyperventilated, talking about how Johnny Depp SA'd her? In my opinion, we're dealing with the exact same kind of people. Again, I don't know her dad from Adam or her brother. I don't know these people. They could be, who knows what they are behind the scenes. But what I can say is I feel like I got Casey Anthony figured out, and I don't believe anything she says. Something else that I found was interesting is in this show, she belittles her dad by talking about how he had a gambling problem and da. But Casey's out playing poker at the bars, honey, doing the same exact thing. She also started off the docuseries with saying that she doesn't ever go anywhere out in public. She gets social anxiety and she doesn't want to go anywhere alone. But honey, she's at the bars drinking just fine.
I've had really bad social anxiety for the last decade. Going to crowded places by myself is not something I feel comfortable doing anymore. I've had really bad social anxiety for the last decade. Going to crowded places by myself is not something I feel comfortable doing anymore. I've had really bad social anxiety for the last decade. Going to crowded places by myself is not something I feel comfortable doing anymore. I'm a little too honest. I'm blunt. I'm direct.
And we all saw from the video I did a few months ago that she got into an argument at a bar with a girl that used to be her friend, from what I understand. They were dating the same guy, and the girl allegedly, according to Casey, the chick that was in this altercation said that Casey's lying, as usual. But Casey said the girl threw a drink on her. Well, Casey called the police.
Hi. Can I file an incident report? Sure, what happened? So I'm still wet. I got a drink thrown at me. This girl has been harassing me for a while. I have her cell phone number. Okay. If it helps. Do you know her name? Her name is Thelma Moya. Thelma Magali Moya. She goes by Thelma Moya. Yeah.
Okay, and what happened?
She verbally assaulted me, but physically assaulted me with witnesses. I'm still damp from the drink she threw at me.
I had really bad social anxiety for the last decade. Going to crowded places by myself is not something I feel comfortable doing anymore.
And why did she throw a drink at you?
We had a verbal altercation outside.
Outside over there?
Yeah.
And elaborate, like what happened?
We dated the same person for a couple years. Malcolm Allison, who was with your department, one of your sergeants.
But you didn't call the police when your daughter was missing?
A little too honest. I'm blunt. I'm direct.
Make it make sense, y'all. Now let's talk about what this jury member has been saying online, you guys. This was a jury member speaking out over on Reddit and not wanting their identity to be made public, but they allegedly spoke to the mods and showed identification to prove that they were actually a jury member. And they were asked if they had any regrets once they were not sequestered and they could see everything that we could see. And I have seen other jury members saying yes, but this one said no. They said they were 100% satisfied, 0 regrets, and the personal thoughts were that she, meaning Casey, was a stupid, lying, crazy beep, but not a murderer. The juror was asked if it was unanimous, and they said it was unanimous, that it had to be. There was originally 2 people in favor of a guilty verdict, but after a few hours of deliberation, they changed their minds. They went on to say, I personally thought that she was innocent of first-degree murder. Keep in mind, we did not realize how hated she actually was. We knew it was a major case because of all the cameras in the court. However, we were sequestered, so we didn't know how angry people were. One of the other jurors actually had to quit her job because people were so angry at her. And in the end, I can sleep at night. I do not think she should have gone to jail for murder. I also don't think she is any particular danger to society. And there is a part of that I actually agree with. I do not think that she should have been charged with murder. That is where the prosecution messed up, was the murder charge, because they could never prove that. But we'll talk more about that at the end. They went on to say that we thought that since the prosecution could not prove anything about how she died, then there existed an explanation that was equally as plausible as the prosecution's reasonable doubt existed. And then somebody goes on to say that they didn't follow the trial closely, but why did the defense fabricate the story about Casey being emmed? And what did that have to do with anything? And the juror said, I imagine that he was just trying to impeach the father and cast doubt. And I believe that too. It was enough to cast reasonable doubt to throw that whole scenario out there and make you wonder. And that's all they needed to do. They did not need to prove that she was innocent. They just needed to cast doubt. This is the part that I found so fascinating. The jurors said that it was either an accident or Casey killed her. No chance of anything else. And then the other person goes on to say that, oh, come on, really no chance? The granddad, a former cop, has trash from the car thrown out by the tow guy, blah, 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 blah. Basically makes the story for it being the father. The juror says that's true, although highly unlikely. Casey would have to have known what happened, or else she probably wouldn't have partied for 31 days. So that tells you that this jury member knew that she really did know what happened to her daughter, but the charge for murder was too much, and they were going for the death penalty. And if you, as a prosecutor, are going for the death penalty, you better make sure that you can prove that they did it, because that's a lot to put on any juror's conscience. And for them to know that they are sending somebody to death, and the prosecution did not prove that she premeditated and meant to end her daughter's life. It was probably a negligent accident, and they should have went for a different charge, but they didn't. And even this jury member seems to believe that it was an accident and that she was responsible. And that's just crazy.
So evidently her dad
She went
duct taped
partying,
her.
gave her too much chloroform, and that was the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
Came out to the car, the child was dead.
I could believe that she fell asleep and Kaylee drowned, but I don't believe the father had anything to
But
do
why
with it.
the duct tape?
To make it look, in case she was found, to make it look like she was kidnapped.
Yeah, that's a good theory, to make it look like she was
Yeah, because she said last she saw her was with Zenaida.
She was going to go with that route.
Yeah, but how convenient? How convenient is it that if the dad knew what happened?
I don't think the dad knew.
But I'm just saying, let's give her the Benny. If the dad knew what was going on, he must have also known that she was a compulsive liar. How convenient is it that he knew she would make herself look guilty?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because in his mind, just don't say anything and it'll all be fine.
Right.
As long as there's no real hard evidence that leads me or you to her death, they can't convict. And then she goes down a rabbit hole of this babysitter that didn't exist.
So what do you guys think? Do you think that this could be the truth still? Do you think that there's still so much more that I have left out? It's just we could go on and on and on and hit, again, lie by lie by lie and break them down. I believe that Casey Anthony enjoys this attention, and let me tell you guys why. Nicole Kessinger. If you guys don't know who Nicole Kessinger is, she is the chick that was having an affair with Chris Watts when Chris Watts did what he did to his family. She dropped off the face of the earth, honey, and even allegedly changed her name according to documents that have been circulating around online. Casey Anthony could have very well moved out of Florida, Okay, she's been allegedly working for this guy for 10 years. I know she done saved up enough money by now. She's living with him and working for him. She could have moved out of Florida, dyed her hair, changed her look, legally changed her name, and started all over with a new life. But she stayed right there with the same look and the same name, doing the same things, and waiting for her opportunity to do this. And George Anthony, Casey Anthony's father's response in all this has been that he is outraged and appalled at the allegations that he would mess with his granddaughter, and he of course denies it all. He says that this article that will be linked down below says that George Anthony knew that he was going to be thrown under the bus, but he didn't expect for her to run him over so many times. And if what he is saying is the truth, okay, if this is all made up lies against him, which it very well could be, how devastating. Especially when you listen to those jailhouse calls, it sounds like he really loved his daughter, and it sounded like she loved him. So, I don't know, you guys, you let me know down below. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Other than that, I will see y'all on Friday for a highly, highly, highly requested video. I've had to go in and re-add stuff because things keep changing, but it'll be here Friday, so I'll see you guys here Friday. Thank y'all so much for watching and hanging out with me. I love you guys, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.